I did a thing I wasn't proud of last night, but I was slightly proud of.
What's that mean?
So we were playing paper, and only 2 of us drive, but there are 3 people that need lifts home. And Manchester's basically on a big ring road, and I live right at the north part of the ring road, and the other person who drives is right at the south. So we normally take the other people and, split it geographically who's taking who home. The other person who drives...
Does that make you a ring wraith?
Makes me a idiot for driving people around, like some sort of taxi driver who doesn't expect payment, and now, because my friends aren't very polite, don't offer payment. Anyway, the other driver, it was the last game of the night. It was decided. It just started, and they did 21 points of commander damage with Uriel using Boros Charm double striking me out. And I was like, excellent, you knocked me out of a game that's only 5 turns in.
I'm going home.
Super early. Guess what your prize is? Your prize is dropping everyone off at home. I'm going to record a podcast. Night, fellas. Enjoy your extra 50 minutes of driving. Bye.
And that's what you get for knocking Sean out.
Well, it's fine to knock me out, but 5 turns in when he's expecting me to do him favours. No. Last game of the night. No.
No?
So, I was slightly but
You are not vindictive at all.
He won a prize, which was some extra time in his car.
That's an Orzhov prize.
Yeah, it's true. This definitely won't bite you in.
Alrighty then. Here we go. I'm Phil DeLuca.
I'm Nate Burgess.
And I am Sean Watson.
And we are Commanderin. There is some amazing music. Commanderin. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're going to put a spotlight on community issues, but never, ever talk about 3 banned topics: religion, politics, or Hearthstone. Remember to head over to our Patreon community at patreon.com/commanderin.mtg, and by donating as little as $1 a show, you'll get to be part of making the show. Our $10 patrons, for example, have contributed to this show, and you'll hear from them later on. This week, we have a wonderful show lined up for you. We're going to talk about Eldritch Moon. This is a set review, so Judson, you can turn us off now. Judson always complains on Twitter when we do a set review, so I figured I'd just save him, what will probably end up being 50 minutes or so of pain and agony listening to a set review. Judson should absolutely not listen to this.
He's already heard somebody talk about these cards.
Yeah, but
Yes.
This is our unique take on it. So everybody who isn't Judson should keep listening.
Has he heard us talk about them is the point, with our unique stylings, and one of us at least has a vocal cadence unlike any other.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. And thank you once again, Bruce Richard, for the gift that keeps on giving. We keep mentioning that every podcast. We should provide a link just to kind of refresh it for our listeners.
He had an article up on the Mothership this month.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I think it's about pre-releases as tournaments or experiences.
Well, we'll have to provide a link to that just out of courtesy.
Hmm.
We will provide a link to Bruce Richard's article. We'll put that in our show notes. So everybody go listen to, go read the show notes, and you'll find that link. Sorry, Sean, if I broke you there for a moment. That's my friend's voice. My friend, I think he listens. He kind of listens to the show, and this really isn't his voice, but this, when I'm imitating him, this is kind of what it's like. Conspiracy releases soon, and this is not really news so much as it is self-promotion, of course, but we're going to have a very special guest on, gents. This is going to rock the house. It's also a good time to talk about politics, and we might have a different special guest on to talk about politics. Whoever could that be? Around that same time, it'll be about 6 weeks or so, 4 to 6 weeks or so after Eldritch Moon, and we're going to have Donald Miner on again from EDHREC.com to talk about the effects this very set Eldritch Moon has on the Commander meta. He's already been spoiling, like who's in the lead, which legendary creature is actually being brewed more than any others, but we'll have the official spoiler.
And by that point, we would have been able to see the whole of the moon. Insert song.
Hey, this week we revisit our favorite lead-in topic, our minor topic for the show. Nate, do you want to tell us all about it?
This segment is the watch list.
The watch list. Da, da, da.
And it's about cards that are going to warp your meta.
Warping?
People in your meta are going to see those cards. They're going to want them. Or they're going to want to get them off the board. And they're going to make their decks to that purpose. This episode's watch list is Tamiyo Field Researcher. 1 green, white, blue, planeswalker Tamiyo, 4 loyalty. +1. Choose up to 2 creatures. Until your next turn, draw a card when either one deals combat damage. Now, most abilities like this specify that the creature has to do combat damage to a player. This does not.
Oh, snap.
-2, Frost, up to 2 non-lands. That means you tap them, and they don't untap until later. -7, draw 3 cards, and then you get an emblem with Omniscience. It means you can cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana cost. That's an emblem, can't go away. You got a card in your hand, play it, and don't pay for it.
You also get Ancestral Recall.
Yep, 3 cards.
Yeah, 3 cards are free. Now, normally when we do a watch list on a set review and we look at a card in the set, I normally, it's cute for us to do it and look at sort of what is objectively a very powerful card in the set. Normally, I don't really think it's worthy of the watch list. This one, I actually do.
Wow.
I think this is going to be a real player, this card.
Have you even seen it in a game?
Yep, I played against her twice last night.
Dope.
One of them was in a Derevi Stacks deck, and the other one was just in a Bank Good Stuff deck. Both times, doubling season.
Doubling season was out when Tamiyo was played?
Yeah, both times Crows and Grip destroyed the season as Tamiyo went on the stack.
Ooh, close call.
This is yeah, you're not wrong. Well, I actually for once said thank you, Green, but at the same time, curse you, Green.
You're frenemies now.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a house.
So why is it good, chaps? I mean, I could chip in 2 cents. So +1, which is essentially draw 2 cards if you have 2 creatures out. Because, as Nate already pointed out, that's just got to be combat damage, not combat damage to a player. Right. It just basically says lose a couple of tokens. The frosting, the tap 2 things, it's pretty good. I mean, it's super defensive. Sorry, if the board state doesn't have a lot of flyers on it, you can sort of tap down the 2 flyers that's going to take Tamiyo out, or, that Avacyn or some giant thing that's going to come and murder you next turn. You can keep you alive. But that -7 is so achievable in those colours, in the Bant Slice Shard. You can keep her alive really easily, and it's just, with doubling season available to it, it just ends the game as soon as someone gets that ultimate off.
Yeah, if you're doing a Super Friends deck in 5 colors or even just Bant, doubling season is often a win condition to fire off ultimates, and new Tamiyo further reinforces that tactic.
She's gross.
Is she going to end up on the drinking list?
I don't think she is, but only because she is fired off by doubling season. And the problem, I think, is doubling season in the deck she wants to go into, not her herself. If you play her in a non-deck that's running doubling season, or a deck that's not running doubling season, and Gilded Bairn, which is a Simic coloured card which allows her to double her tokens as well, then she's okay. She's just really, really good. But I think second that you can drop her and ultimate her immediately, it's a 4-mana Omniscience with an Ancestral Recall, 2 of the most powerful cards ever printed. 1 is one of the Power 9. And you go, okay, GG. Brilliant. Good for you. I was kind of disappointed. If her ultimate was 9 to activate, I'd be all for it. But I think 7 is too low for what she does.
Yeah, 7 feels deliberately within range of doubling season. It's like they knew she would be used in Super Friends decks. We should have asked Sam about this, actually. Like why he set that at 7 instead of at 9.
Well, even if it was 8, she would die. So you can doubling season her ultimate and still have her on the table. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
The ultimate doesn't even kill her. So it's worse than that.
Right, but even so, for 4 mana, listen to me. For 4 mana, you can't really beat that, right? 4 mana, you come in, you ultimate her. Even if you lose her, she goes to the graveyard. Well, it's not like you can't get cards back from the graveyard, but that's not bad, right? Having an Omniscience with an Ancestral Recall tacked onto it, that's pretty good for 4 mana.
Well, so her colour selection's a bit odd, right? So look at the other 2 3-colour Planeswalkers, which were Nicol Bolas Planeswalker and Sarkhan Unbroken. So each of them had a distinct ability on their card that felt very much in the colour pie of their casting cast. Where's the white in Tamiyo? They're both, all 3 of them are blue-green abilities. The ultimate's just blue.
Yeah.
The drop 2 is just blue, and the +1 is, I guess it's green because it involves creatures?
Yeah, it doesn't, I wouldn't look
too
at
many
that
Simic
too
Planeswalkers already?
closely.
Do you think Kiora already takes those slots?
I don't know. I mean, put her in a well-built Derevi deck, you're going to protect her super well.
Well... Mark Rosewater explained that they wanted another Planeswalker. They wanted this one. And development said that the only way that this would be able to fit in the current standard is if it were a very narrowly focused card. So it could only appear in one very limited, like one very specific deck, and that's Bant. Which, of course...
You know what deck it's going to fit in if we're going standard? It's not Bant. It's going to go in White-Blue Spirits with a splash green.
Right. Well, Bant and White-Green are dominating standard at the moment, so... In the last episode with Sam, they didn't see that Selesnya/Bant was dominating standard. How about that?
And in standard, you're not limited by the commander's color identity like in our format. So if you're playing in Selesnya, which is very powerful at the moment, or even Azorius Spirits, which is doing okay, you're just going to splash for that other colour to drop her in. And it's not hard to do at all.
No, not hard at all.
But I think in standard, she's certainly a watch list card. But we've had powerful Planeswalkers in standard decks before, you know.
Yeah, and getting the ultimate off in standard is going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible when it's only 7, though.
No, it's not impossible.
But in Commander, just because of the colour which she's in, which is one of the most powerful 3-colour combinations, if not, I'd say it's Bant and Temur are the 2 most powerful 3-colour. I don't know what your opinion on that is, guys.
Sultai.
Yeah, Sultai's pretty good.
I think Sultai's only limited by which commanders are available to it, which are very narrow with the exception of Damia, and Damia is, 7 or 8 mana to play. I think when Sultai gets more commanders, it will be very good. Whereas Tima and Ban have got... Well, Tima's got not that many commanders, but 2 of those commanders are Maelstrom Wanderer and Animal, and Riku, I guess, is his third. and
they are pretty choice, aren't they?
Ban has Derevi, Rafik, Janara's pretty tasty if built correctly. You know, there's a load of really good Angus Mackenzie if you do Super Friends decks. Keep your stuff fogged. And what do Tima and Ban both have in common, guys?
Simic.
Mm-hmm.
Simic. Yeah, there you go. Hashtag easy mode. I think this isn't really worthy of banning, but I think it's more fuel on the fire of doubling season. And I think it will be a cold day in hell when the rules committee ban doubling season.
Yeah. I mean, unless it becomes just too problematic.
I know that in our group, there's not... Super Friends gets played by a couple of people, and they're both playing green for it. And, there's a good example. When we had a brief conversation about doing a Super Friends focused, everyone take a different shard or wedge, and we build a Super Friends deck with us and some of the patrons and deck testing people. Everyone clambered for the green shards and wedges, didn't they?
Not me. I went Jeskai.
You did, and I automatically went Esper, but everyone else went, yeah, and everyone... And I know when I built my Esper deck, it just held counter spells waiting for the inevitable doubling season. I don't know. I think the problem here is another card. Although, if you look at Omniscience itself, when it casts, it's totally scary. Draw 3 cards is brilliant. It doesn't kill itself, so the turn after you're going to draw an additional 2 cards off your 2 creatures to cast for free again. I'm a little sad this card exists, to be honest.
It's pretty good. We don't see a lot of Bant commanders anyway. I mean, most of the time you see a Derevi once. Anybody who puts a Rafik out gets hammered. So maybe this will see more Bant commanders get played.
Boo.
Maybe
we'll see Triva the Renewer. Is that who that is?
I think
Triva the Renewer.
We're all forgetting the other Bant commander that everyone plays, which is Rune of the Hidden Realms. I don't know, if you've got Rune out, which normally allows you to flicker all sorts of permanents, cast Tameo plus 1-er, Flickerer plus 1-er again, that's 4 mana for draw 4 cards.
Yeah. No, it's pretty good. But Rune can't flicker planeswalkers, right?
No, but a billion cards in the deck can. Have you not played against Rune? He's not the only flicker source.
Oh, I have a Rune deck that I don't use very often.
Why don't you use it very often?
Oh, because it's brutal.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, I shouldn't be giggling.
How about Feldergriff?
True, Feldergriff.
Oh, yeah, so you can do...
I have a Feldergriff, so I can play.
Arcades Sabbath.
Well, she's great in Feldergriff because you +1 and give her the 2 card draw to somebody else's creatures.
Rubinia Soulsinger? After the Charles episode, I actually saw someone play a Ragnar Clue deck.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, is there anything more we need to say about this wonderful little lady, Tameo?
Nope.
I hope the next time we see her, she's cleaned herself and got rid of the Selesnya out of her colour slice.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. All right. So now on to our main topic, which is the set review. And we're not really going to do an entire card-by-card set review. You're going to hear that elsewhere. You're going to hear many cards discussed. Obviously, if you want to hear every card discussed in a limited context, you tune into Limited Resources. There are probably other Commander-oriented podcasts, like our friends Josh and Jimmy, who've covered more cards in greater detail. We're just going to pick our top 5s and then talk about the legendary creatures and talk about the other planeswalker in the set. So, Nate, you wanna take us into this with your first pick?
My number 5 pick is...
Dun dun dun.
Campaign of Vengeance. 3 white black enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. So my Teysa, Token, and Weenie deck, it has a new win condition now. And other Orzhov life gain decks could use this, depending on how many aggro creatures they use. And looking at the art, I would like an altar of this card where Sorin is holding a fluted glass in his outstretched hand as a toast to the battlefield champagne of vengeance. This tastes bitter. Sorin Markov.
I can taste the bubbles.
Do you think he would realize that right there on the battlefield, that a campaign of vengeance is bitter? Would it be a bitter revelation?
Oh, well, the champagne tastes bitter. It would be a bitter revelation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And it might burn from within.
He's probably grim.
I'm not going with this, guys.
So, yeah, it's a beautiful card.
Phil, what's your number 5 pick?
Hey, so my number 5 pick is Identity Thief. For 2 and blue, you get a creature shapeshifter. Whenever Identity Thief attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature.
Get out.
If you do, Identity Thief becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn. Return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step.
Come on back.
So this is this is cloning and blocker removal or enter the battlefield re-trigger all in one card. How cool is that? This definitely has a home in the Mimeoplasm and, as we were talking about, the Rune deck. Because even if you don't have any creatures that are worth exiling...
Somebody does.
Somebody does, right. I'm going to grab some Enter the Battlefield triggers. And it might just be my Terrastodon again.
Yeah,
if I want to be devoured by a swarm of elephants.
Stampede!
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, I pulled one in my pre-release.
Oh, cool.
And it did some work.
Yeah, very nice.
Oh, yeah. In Limited, this is murder. It breaks stalemates. They have a couple of cards in this set that are stalemate breakers. Like that angel, the angel of domination. Subjugation, sorry.
Subjugator angel.
Yeah, that's it. Sean, what's your top number 5 pick?
My first pick, I suppose my number 5 pick, is Spell Queller. It's 1 and an Azorius. That's a white and a blue, kids. For a 2/3 creature spirit with flash and flying. When Spell Queller enters the battlefield, exile target spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. When Spell Queller leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So, it's a little cat spell, basically. It's just plays into the control strategy it wants to play with really well. It leaves you with a 2/3 body for 3, which is a pretty good blocker. Or if you need to attack the next turn to get rid of someone's Tameo, for example, to do some damage to it, it's a pretty good card. And I think 3 mana for essentially counter a spell. And it's any spell, it's not just any spell with CMC 4 or less. If you do it to a creature, yeah, they're probably going to get some value back later and target the Spell Queller. But I just think it's a neat little card for its colours into the control strategy it wants to play into.
So it delays a spell.
Yeah, although if you counter with it, when the Spell Queller dies, the counter will fizzle.
Ooh.
Or a spot removal often. Banishing Light, Oblivion Ring type effects are powerful in our format.
Now, if you happen to have any instant speed spot removal in your hand when you cast this one, you can ensure that second clause never actually matters.
Yes, because
the Spell Queller enters the battlefield, the first one goes on the stack. While it's on the stack, you exile or otherwise zap with your white-blue instant speed removal, the Spell Queller. The second one goes on the stack, fizzles because there's no card that's been countered. And then the second one goes off because the Queller has entered the battlefield. So, bam. It's like the Oblivion Ring trick.
Yes, this is a lot of work to get that.
It is, but you could look at it for 4 mana as you can get rid of a problematic spell, really, completely. Like Toxic Deluge, for example.
That is a good spell. I don't think it's a problem-solving spell. Like, I don't know, Tamio, the field researcher, for example.
Yeah, exactly. I'd pay 4 mana to counter a Tamio.
Anyway, I don't think it's the best card for Commander, but out of this set, I just think it's got some tech behind it. I think it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, next.
Number 4.
Nate.
My number 4 pick is Graph Harvest. Black. Enchantment. Zombies you control have menace. That means they can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. Now, in Zombie Tribal, you can stop reading right there, and this card would still be worthy. But there's more. 3 and a black. Exile a creature card from your graveyard. Put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield.
Nice. If only it was any graveyard.
Yeah.
Zombies are twice as hard to block is very nice for 1 black.
Yeah, you usually have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
This in a zombie deck, this is going to call the instant speed enchantment removal, in which case it's like, oh, okay. My zombie tokens don't have menace, sorry.
I think it's the kind of card that's not going to get removed for the first few games you play with it, and then people will go, oh, I see.
Yeah, exactly. I see it the same way, and let's face it, we're talking about Nate here. Mm-hmm. When Nate plays this the first couple of times, it's going to be allowed out. And then after that, never again. But then, again, it's like, he's just waiting to cast his Rooftop Storm or something like that.
It's not as bad as a Cemetery Reaper, which does a similar thing, but from any graveyard, and you have to tap it, and it costs 1 less.
Yeah, but I'm more worried about the zombies you control of menace. Like, that's the bigger deal.
That's the bit. It's you go, and there'll be someone, because people do it when I play with Kozilek Great Distortion, they forget what menace really does, because it's a new keyword, and you go attack, and they go, well, I'll chump block it. You're like, you won't. So people will sit there and go, I've got a bunch of chump blockers for your zombie horde. There you go, well, you've got half the amount that you think you do.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's the thing. I can recall many an instance where I'm doing the life math and looking at Nate's board state, and it's like, okay, I can just block a couple of these guys and get by with like 2 life, and that allows me to pull. They all have menace, right? It's like that's it.
Okay,
Menace.
Menace. Yeah, good card. Good card.
Yeah, really good card.
Hey, Nate. Forget you. What's Phil's number 4?
My number 4, it goes into 1 deck. Well, it could go into a couple, really, but because it's a powerful enough card, but still, it goes into 1 deck. And it's the Mirror Wing Dragon for 3 and red. You get a flying 4/5 that has 1 little special ability, which incidentally would qualify it as having wordy in case one is playing protection from wordy cards. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only Mirror Wing Dragon, that player copies that spell for each other creature he or she controls that the spell could target.
Nice.
Each copy targets a different one of those creatures, so your opponent will be deterred from removing this with instant speed targeted removal, because of course it's going to zap all of his or her own creatures. But that's not really where the benefit comes, because you play this in Zada, and now all of a sudden you have a second Zada effect. It doubles the effectiveness of your deck, because most of your cards, even the ones with Strive, are targeting Zada. They target 1 creature, and now you can just target Mirrorwing Dragon. It's pretty amazing. Oh, and I'd have to check. I really should have checked this before the show.
Is it a backup Zada, or does it reverberate with Zada?
Yeah, that's what I was just wondering myself. Yeah, it's Zada says whenever you cast a spell. With Mirrorwing, you're not actually casting the copies. You're just copying the spell and it goes off. So Zada and Mirrorwing can't infinitely combo off of each other, but goodness gracious, this is beautiful. Because my big problem when playing with Zada is keeping Zada out, because most people, it was one of those things like the first couple of games, everybody was like, oh, Zada. And then you draw a handful of cards. Every one of your creatures gets +3/+3 and trample and haste and all sorts of yummy stuff. And so now, if Zada's not out or Zada gets too expensive, you're mirroring, and all of a sudden the equation changes again. Surprise.
Yeah, so that's pretty tasty.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the best red card in the set. It's not been a good strong block for red in Commander, has it?
No.
Sorry, red.
No, but blue and black win.
Yeah, probably. Zombie tribal wins, if we're honest, doesn't it, lads? So, yeah. I really like
Yeah, so Sean.
card. Oh, my number 4?
Your number 4.
My number 4. Going with my control deck theme, which is what I've taken from Eldritch Moon. I've gone for Niblis of Frost.
Nibbles.
The sister card to Niblis of Nixon. It's sorry, Phil. 2 blue for a 3/3 creature spirit. Is flying and prowess. So they're really embracing prowess as an evergreen ability now. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, continuing the Frost Titan theme of frosting something. So, because it's every time there's a prowess trigger, I think this could be a legitimate card for Mizzix or Niv Mizzet. A deck that's going to just keep slinging out a whole bunch of spells. Or even Shu Yun, Silent Tempest.
Yeah, but does prowess really work in Commander?
I'm going to take a Shu Yun deck and show you it does. The +1/+1 to end a turn isn't that great. It's when prowess has a second trigger, which does something really well. So in the right blue-built deck, like this might be a creature card that you consider for all those traditionally non-creature decks, like Talrand, Mizzix, Niv Mizzet. Don't want to say it, but Melek. Those sort of decks where you're running less than 10 creatures and the ones you got, I think this is a potential for it. Opinion, fellas?
Yeah, you said Zombie Tribal really won with this set, but I also think that Instants and Sorceries Matter commanders like the ones you just named really won too. Because you have the Niblis, you have the guy that pumps out 1/1 insect wizard tokens, and of course, and Thing in the Ice too. But Thing in the Ice is Metz. It's not so great.
I think Odric came out ahead.
Oh, yeah, Odric's great.
This was a good set for Commander, is what we're saying.
Good set for Odric.
Yes.
I'll say that. Not bad for Rakdos either.
Yeah. This is really good. So I think it's a card that it's not going to be a sort of Commander staple or anything like that, nowhere near it. But I think decks that are going to be chucking a lot of spells, I think it's a serious consideration for them. And that's all.
Yeah.
Because those decks need ways of stopping people attacking them.
Exactly.
Quit it.
And this is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it as, would you put an enchantment that does the same thing in your Instant Sorceries Matters deck? You know, and the answer is yeah. Like, it's another way to reinforce what you're already doing, and this gives you a body on top of that.
Can be quite a good body as well. So I've cast, 8, 9, 10 spells in a single turn using Niv Mizzet. So suddenly you get a few of those +1/+1 triggers on your Niblis and, can attack for quite a chunk of damage on a flying creature.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you're playing a deck with a lot of Tamios in it and you're used to tapping down a bunch of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I only wish it did it when it came into play as well. That'd be nice. So you got a free one when you cast the Niblis.
Nibbles.
Nibbles. Icy nibbles. Anyway, that's my number 4. Nate, what's your number 4?
Cold nibbles. My number 3 pick is, speaking of that blue insect guy, Docent of Perfection. Yeah. 3 blue, creature, insect horror. Oh, but there's more, so much more. It's a 5/4 with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 3 or more wizards, transform Docent of Perfection into final iteration. 6/5 creature Eldrazi insect with flying. Wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token onto the battlefield. So we mentioned this card in a previous Sam Stoddard episode in reference to Talrand Sky Summoner, but this works in any kind of blue wizard tribal. It works very well in a new Riku of 2 Reflections build I've been testing, because if Riku makes 1 copy of the Docent, then a single instant or sorcery transforms them both because you get 3 wizards. Riku plus 2 tokens, and then they all transform. And it's a good target for a kicked Rite of Replication or any effect that can copy your own creatures. Yes, I will have 6 flying 13/7 tokens every time I cast an instant and sorcery. That would be cool. Let's do that. Good thing I got some instants and sorceries.
It's a good deck. Good card, sorry, for many decks. Oh, it's really good, isn't it?
It really is. This one definitely goes into your instants and sorcerers matter decks.
Yep. Mizzix.
Oh, man.
Your Niv Mizzet dragons.
That deck only runs 4 creatures, so...
You want a bigger Niv Mizzet?
Maybe. What do you cut?
You want a bunch of wizard tokens that fly?
I'm not sure I do with that particular deck, but the others, yes, I agree with.
Aww.
I cut 2 of the creatures out of it recently because I was just like, no, this isn't efficient enough.
That's right.
Well, this is a good plan B.
Efficiency is king. Yeah, I'll try it out if I pull one, and I'll give you feedback on how it goes in Niv Mizzet.
Yep.
Dragons.
Well, my number 3 pick, already at number 3, wow, we're just zipping along here, is Voldarin Pariah. For 3 in black. You get a creature vampire horror, a 3/3 creature vampire horror. With flying, sacrifice 3 other creatures, transform Voldarin Pariah. Oh, it has Madness 3 too. That's just sort of gravy. You're not doing it for madness. When you transform it, you get a colorless Abolisher of Bloodlines, a creature Eldrazi vampire with all those arms. Look at those arms. Flying. 6/5.
Goat head?
Yeah, it's got a goat head.
Yes. You can never have too many goat heads.
This one beat me up a little bit at the pre-release.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine when this thing hits the table, it's just bad news. Especially in Limited, because this is a breaker, right? Because then when this creature transforms into Abolisher of Bloodlines, target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. So there you are in the pre-release. And this thing transforms. Your whole board crumbles. It's already flying, so it's going to get past, but it crumbles. Your board crumbles, and then their ground-bound vampires and whatnot can swarm in. Lovely. This has a place in any Athreos deck, right? Because you're sacrificing 3 creatures. They're probably not tokens. I mean, it has a place in any kind of black-based token deck, too. There are so many places this thing goes. If your opponent is only running a few creatures, you can put this in your black deck and you can hammer their board state. And in Commander, we're not talking about a few tokens dying, although, in some cases we are, but you play this and you transform it when you're the one getting rid of, say, a few tokens, and then your opponent is getting rid of his or her Avacyn, maybe an Emrakul. You time it, and you annihilate.
It's cool. It's the reverse of the Keeper of Bloodlines from original Innistrad, isn't it? Which used to create vampires rather than destroy them, I guess. It's good. I think 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer is poor if you don't already have a load of good creatures.
That's right.
That's the only real downside to it.
Yeah, this requires a little bit of finesse in terms of casting it and when to transform it, but, oh man.
If only the decks that are going to run an effect like this also run Dictate of Heliod and Grave Pact. If only.
Dictate of Erebos, right?
Yes. Why was I talking Heliod? Yes, Erebos. I don't know why they would want +2/+2, and that's it. But yeah, Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact.
Yeah, this could work in Teysa Orzhov Scion, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sack a load of dudes.
And get free spirits, too.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Very good.
Many loves.
Everyone likes triple edict effects on the flip as well, which is very nice.
Yeah, I mean, just for that alone, right? Just for that effect alone, it's worthwhile. And, even if you're facing an opponent who has a token swarm, then you wait until you have a Grave Pact out or a Dictate of Erebos, and then you use it, and then you get just all sorts of shenanigan fun going on with this. And if it's essentially if you have the right board state, it's essentially a board wipe.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, it's great. Solid choice.
What's your number 3, Sean?
My number 3... I don't know, I was tossing between this and the next two. They're all very close, my remaining 3, to what my best card in says. This came in at 3, just because of its high CMC and the hate it draws. Discussed it with Sam Stoddard. It's Mind's Dilation. So, 5 and 2 blue for a blue enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. I've played with it a bit now, and at worst it soaks up a removal spell, an enchantment removal spell. If you get it going, though, it's great. Rules query on it, because I was playing with a friend of the show, Nick Jarogulski. Yeah, so if you flip over a card, it does break the timing for that card. So if you can cast, say, a creature card immediately with it, because it isn't, you can pay it at any time. It's like Memory Plunder. You can just cast it automatically because that's what Mind's Dilation says you do.
So it's not limited by the speed of the type.
Yeah, and card type of what you flip over. You just get it straight away. It's sensational. Sensational. I'm still looking for the point where someone tries to remove it with the first spell of the turn. You flip over a counter spell and counter the removal. Not quite happened to me yet, but it will one day. It's great. I mean, I've put it into 5 decks so far.
4 for me.
It's slotted in nicely in all of them. It's if you're playing blue and who isn't, it's just a good card. Get them while they're hot, kids. Get them while they're hot. Anyone else got anything to add on this card? We've discussed it at some length before, I guess.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a star in the preview season, too. It's a great card.
Yeah. So that's my number 3. Moving on. Nate Thaniel, what is your number 3?
My number 2 is...
Oh, yeah, sorry, you went first. Yeah, sorry.
Yep. I'm going to talk about 3 cards here.
Brilliant.
Because they all mash all together. First one, Handwear Battlements. It's a land. You can tap it, add colorless to your mana pool. If you pay a red and tap it, target creature gains haste until end of turn. So, this doesn't come in tapped, so it's already better than a Flamekin Village. And if you pay 3 and red, and you tap it, if you both own and control Handwear Battlements and a creature named Handwear Garrison, exile them and meld them into Handwear the Writhing Township. I'll get to that later. First, Handwear Garrison. 2 and red, creature human soldier, 2/3. Whenever Handwear Garrison attacks, put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So if you like token decks and you're pretty aggro in red, you might want to do this. And together they make Handwear the Writhing Township, which is a legendary creature, Eldrazi Ooze. It cannot be your commander. 7/4, trample and haste. Not bad. And whenever Handwear the Writhing Township attacks, put 2 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So it's a red Eldrazi Grave Titan, some assembly required.
Even though you're cheating, this is a very good number 2 card. It's really sweet. Yeah, the battlements definitely go in with now Flamekin Village being the redundant card, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, in some cases you might even use the battlements and not use the garrison.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, would you ever play the battlements and not chuck the garrison in for shiggles? That's and giggles.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think if I was running the battlements, I'd find a slot for the garrison just in case.
Just because it would be cool? Just to see it happen once?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the battlements is a land, so it's not going to get destroyed. So if you just draw into the garrison, good on you.
Yeah. I think they both go in Perforos decks. And if you're making a human tribal and you're doing red aggro, maybe Alicia who smiles at death. But the thing is, whenever Hanware Garrison attacks, you put 2 tokens onto the battlefield. But Alicia kind of skips the declaration of attack. So I don't think Alicia would give you the 2 tokens if you brought this back from the graveyard.
No, she doesn't on the first turn, but if it survives until the next turn, then sure, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But again, you're probably only doing it because you already have Hanware battlements out. It just makes me giggle every time I think of it.
I think of the 3 meld cards that we got, this is probably the most commandery, because I don't think the Gisela Brunner deck is particularly good deck.
It's fragile.
Yeah, that's exactly it. If you get it off, then good on you, but it's super fragile because it's mono white. The Wretcheds, the Writhing Mass, Twitching Mass, Chittering Mass.
Chittering Host.
Yes, that's the one. Like you and me right now, I'm a chittering host. Sorry. I think because the 2 cards individually aren't that good, so you're going to get disappointed if you're not going to want to tutor up for the other half in black. Whereas this one, the battlements is just a solid card on its own, and the garrison's pretty good for what red wants to do as well.
Yep.
And once the garrison's down, you're probably going to keep it on the table long enough to see the garrison. So, yeah, I think this is the best of them for Commander.
And if you meld them together, you get a chance to use our 3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens.
Yes.
Made by Kelly DeLuca.
It's very true.
Which are beautiful things. Beautiful.
Yeah, just don't make the mistake I did and print them out at a Staples where the contrast is really low, so it turns out very muddy except for the blue bit on the one of the Eldrazi's tentacles.
Maybe they got for a little mud bath before. You don't know what the skin needs of an Eldrazi horror is, do you, Phil? They might be
it's
like
true.
a hippo
No, I don't.
wallowing. Phil, what's your number 2 choice?
Mine is what may be the most egregious color pie bend in the set. Imprisoned in the Moon. For 2 and a blue, the enchantment aura that says, enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap add colorless to your mana pool and loses all other card types and abilities. Blue now has a hard answer for commanders most of the time with blue removal. In fact, all of the other times, right? With blue removal, the commander just returns to the command zone. But in this case, the commander stays out. And so now you must deal with Imprisoned in the Moon before you can get your commander back. It's similar to, as Nate put here in the show plan, Darksteel Mutation and Song of the Dryads, which, of course, if you're running Bant now, you're going to run all 3 of these cards.
Okay, right.
Redundancy.
So let's do a role play, right? Phil, you've had an email to come up to my office. So, come on in. This is a role play. You have to go with it.
All right, hold on a second.
Come in. Hi, Phil. You're in my office.
Hi, Mark.
You know what that means. You've broken the color pie. Don't mind this cleaver. Explain to me why this card is blue.
Well, it's because blue polymorphs things, and so it's changing a creature into something else. So I figured...
Phil.
Yeah, Mark?
Would you say your fingers are sausagey thick, or... my Rosewater's turning into Trump now.
Yeah.
Why is this card blue, is my point.
Well, again, it's because it turns a creature into something else. And...
It's a polymorph.
Yep.
A transmute.
To quote Sam Stoddard...
Transmutation.
A Wrath of God that kills everything with hornets is still just Wrath of God.
Well, was the original Song of the Dryads a correct color pie?
No, that was a break.
Yeah, when Ethan was on, he used that exact example as a card he designed that broke the color pie that he got in trouble for.
So maybe Imprisoned in the Moon is correct, and Song of the Dryads just makes that comparison questionable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I will Tumblr at Mark and see if we can get an answer for that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Just go onto his Tumblr and ask Mark a question, and the question will be something like, if this is a bend and Song of the Dryads is a break, what is the correct color
White, isn't
pie
it? White
placement?
White is the imprisonment color.
I don't think he likes Darksteel Mutation either. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out. We'll ask.
I think traditionally white is your Banishing Light type, Oblivion Ring, all that stuff type effect. And that's what this is, really. And it's one that can hit commanders, which is why it's a damn fine card.
It's a very good card.
Oh, no. Oh, just great card. I was going to say, oh, no, I've given my opponent an extra land, but his Perforos doesn't work.
Man, quit it.
Yep. On the plus side, the new land generates colorless for your opponent. Oh, too bad. Sean, what's your number 2?
2
card?
So I thought this card was so powerful it needed a mention, and I'm going to break my own color square here and go with
I know.
Eldritch Evolution. It's 1 and 2 green.
How you pronounce it correctly?
Well, Eldritch.
Evolution.
Evolution. 1 and 2 green for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Eldritch Evolution, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, exile Eldritch Evolution. Wow!
So it's like a faster birthing pod?
Faster birthing pods, kind of like a Tooth and Nail for 3 mana, but you only get 1 card. A bit like, what's that green one that did it recently that got reprinted in Eternal Masters? Natural Order. This is classic green cheating mana costs to get a big beater out. So, sack a 6+, go get your Crater Hoof Behemoth, win. There you go. Like,
Womp womp. Quit
pure power. Just disgustingly pure power.
Yeah. And it's a good thing they didn't just make a card that essentially reprints Craterhoof Behemoth, because otherwise this would be a completely broken card. Oh. Wait a minute.
You know, you can emerge Decimator of the Provinces from Craterhoof Behemoth for 1 mana.
Oh, Nate.
Just 1 mana.
Yeah, I was looking at Decimator today.
Emerge it right out.
It's Decimator, and obviously they put those the 3 green in the emerge cost so that no one would be splashing this, but jeepers, that works so well. Yeah, because if you don't kill your opponent first with the Craterhoof, or if you have another pesky opponent to kill,
it's a little extra gravy on the top.
Chaps.
Yep.
Decimator won't trigger with an Eldritch Evolution because it's a cast trigger.
No, I'm saying if you emerge it from a Craterhoof
Oh,
Behemoth.
I know what you're saying, Nate. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Decimator won't trigger from Eldritch Evolution because it's an Eldrazi and it's a cast trigger.
Yeah.
Can you name the only Eldrazi that hasn't entered the battlefield trigger, not a cast trigger?
No.
I was as surprised as you.
No.
It's ironic that you can't think of it. There's a clue. There's a clue.
Yeah, there's a clue.
When Thought Not Seer enters the battlefield,
There he
target
is.
opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-land card from it and exile that card. Bye-bye.
Yep, Thought Not Seer is the only Eldrazi that doesn't have a cast trigger. But Eldritch Evolution is going to be Commander Classic for years to come, I think.
Boo.
Now that Natural Order and Tooth and Nail are both $20+, this is your go-to guy.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, that's my number 2 pick. Nate, what is your best card in Eldritch Moon, your number 1 choice?
Well, I pulled one at the pre-release, so it's already in my Rakdos deck. And I got to talk about 2 cards here, but the first one's important. Cryptolith Fragment, 3 colorless. Artifact. Cryptolith Fragment enters the battlefield tapped. If you tap it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and each player loses 1 life. Ha 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 ha. At the beginning of your upkeep, if each player has 10 or less life, transform Cryptolith Fragment into Aurora of Emrakul. Creature Eldrazi Reflection. It's a 1/4 with flying and death touch, but whenever Aurora of Emrakul attacks, each opponent loses 3 life. And if they're already at 10 or less life, then Aurora of Emrakul is a win-the-game clock. So Rakdos has been waiting for a decent mana rock. The transform conditions are likely to be achieved by mass burn decks, such as Heartless Hidetsugu, Ashling the Pilgrim, and yes, Rakdos Lord of Riots, who's going to want it anyway, just to do the damage to all the players so you can cast Rakdos. And make your creatures cheaper.
Phil, your opinion on this?
I was so happy when I saw that you had pulled this in your pre-release, Nate. It, you posted an early picture, I believe, and I was like, oh, okay, he's got it. And by happy, I mean, I'm just glad that it's facilitating one of your nightmarish decks. I'm not happy about that, but, you know, that you had a little moment of happiness when you peel open one of your packs and there, before your very eyes, is a Cryptolith Fragment.
Hello, handsome.
And, yeah, and this does some work. I pulled it as well, and in Limited, I had it transform into Aurora, and it's devastating. Just devastating. Yay.
How do you feel about this card outside of Rakdos? Because I won't lie, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, it's not as good as other mana rocks for strictly accelerating your mana, and the everybody loses a life. That's a problem. In Commander, you know, it's paying for itself because you're basically paying 1 life to inflict 2 to 3 points of damage on everybody else, and that's a fair trade.
Yeah, if you're already playing an extort type deck, and that's kind of your win condition already.
Yeah, but it's never going to transform into Aurora.
Yeah, I don't know. If it didn't enter the battlefield tapped, I'd feel happier about it. That loss of tempo for a turn. Because how many times do you cast a mana rock and you think, well, realistically, its CMC is less than what it says in the card because you get to tap the mana rock for mana, which is weirdly like Soul Ring's CMC is kind of -1, isn't it?
Yep.
And this one you don't get that bonus. I don't know. I wait to be proven wrong. Cryptolith Fragment outside of Rakdos, where it's an absolute stone cold. I expect it to go on to the signature cards on EDH Rec.
Yep, you get Rakdos guaranteed on turn 4 if this is still out.
Yeah,
yeah. I think for Rakdos, this is your number 1 mana rock, and I think for everybody else, this is like your 4th or 5th.
Number 11, and you normally run 10.
Yeah, like, you know, this is really no worse than a Signet, so...
Dunno. I can drop my Signet on turn 2 every game. Can't with this.
And not use it.
True,
right.
But I have to drop this on turn 3 and not use it, Phil.
Yeah.
So it is strictly worse than a Signet.
No, it's not strictly worse than a Signet. Because the Signet doesn't provide any color.
Okay.
But the Signet is like an extra land, whereas this is sort of like an extra Karu land. You know, one of the bouncers. Again, it's not my first pick.
I like Signets in decks like Riku, where it just makes thinking easier.
Yes, I tap this to get the 2 colours I need for my ability.
Yeah.
Because it's 3 mana as well, this, whereas the Signet's only 2.
Yeah, in terms of 5-color decks, this might go in there, but I don't think you have the room for it in 5-color because you're already using so much support to get that fixed mana out. I don't know. Again, it's, you know, Rakdos instant include. Everybody else?
I think there's so many mana rocks you put in ahead of it, if you look at other 3-drop mana rocks, Coalition Relic fixes colours, can ramp you an extra one every other turn if you need it. Chromatic Lantern is your champion. Commander Sphere allows you to draw cards if you are desperate.
Darksteel Ingot.
So you've already named 3, so this puts this at 4
Darksteel
or 5.
Ingot, so this puts us at 5. Basalt Monolith.
I think it goes after, like, Thran Dynamo and Gilded Lotus, too.
Yeah, and Basalt Monolith. Yeah. So that puts it at 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not first choice, but being able to fix it.
And that's before you name Signets and Soul Rings.
Yeah, Soul Ring and Mana Vault, and then
which
the
puts
3.
It at 12.
3 costers. Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Darksteel Ingot,
Signets.
Chromatic Lantern.
Well,
the Signets I don't use a lot.
Oh, Phil.
Even though the Signets represent that ramp, they're just a little bit too slow. In 3-color decks, absolutely. Right, because the Signets are great fixing, and like Nate said, it's just, you don't think about it, you just use it.
You got the Dragon Monuments for 2 colours.
No, those never go in.
Oh, I've killed Planeswalkers with mine. When your opponent sits there, sets up, wipes the table, says, right, my Planeswalker's fine, now it's going to go ultimate. You go, yeah, you forgot about something.
Man.
Don't overlook a Dragon Monument. I'm not sold on it outside of that one deck where it is the best.
Yeah, I think we all agree. You are arguing vehemently with no one on the podcast.
I don't think I'm arguing with anyone.
There you go.
I think I'm making a point that I don't think it's a very good mana rock.
Well, speaking of cards that really shine in just one deck, can I do one honorable mention?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm not going to read the card. I'm just going to tell you about it. Lone Rider, which transforms into It That Rides as One. So I was talking about Audric Lunark Marshall earlier, and Eldritch Moon has a lot of high-impact cards if you run an Audric deck. In addition to Eldrazi Angels and cards with the word Thalia on them, Lone Rider is a solid workhorse that can easily transform, because your whole team has First Strike and Lifelink, and you're going to gain 3 life pretty easily. And then it gives Audric's team Trample, which is a keyword that Mono White tends to rely heavily on artifacts to get that. But now they don't have to.
Funny you mentioned that. I put Lone Rider into my Audric deck just last night.
Oh, it's a winner.
Oh, it's a good card. And it's disgusting as well from a flavour point of view. Oh, that poor horse, that poor guy melding into one.
Yeah.
I imagine it's in constant pain.
Yeah, it's cute. It's got like 2 mouths.
2 mouths that eat as one.
Phil, what is your number 1 pick?
My number 1 pick is... I had to put a green card in, of course. Splendid Reclamation.
Splendid.
For 3 and a green, you get a sorcery. It's a splendid sorcery indeed, sir. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Bam. Okay, I'll do that because I run a lot of dredge, and as Nate knows, I run a lot of graveyard recursion stuff. And so you've got some graveyard shenanigans going in. Maybe the Mimeoplasm has just dumped half of its own deck into the graveyard.
Quit it.
Splendid. How about that? So don't forget to run your anti-graveyard hate removal suite. So if your opponent runs any sort of artifact-based graveyard removal or enchantment-based graveyard removal, not that we know anybody who does that.
Hey, I do that.
This for 4 mana gets back all those lands. So much better than that other card, the 6 mana sorcery. I can't even remember its name. I've tried using it. The one that goes in and gets X cards out of your deck, where X is the number of lands you control. Bountiful. Yeah, see?
Something?
It's the one we argued about, actually. I hate that card. This one is so much better.
So if you play in a meta where there's a lot of mill decks, someone traumatizes you, go Splendid that back out and go, cheers for that.
Yep. Somebody's running Nekasar. Somebody's making you discard a bunch of cards. Splendid.
It's a great card. I think it's going to go up. It only go up in value as well, cash-wise.
Yeah, I think once the set rolls out of print, after it hits, peak supply, which should be about the same time Kaladesh hits, then this card will be in demand.
I mean, there's no Golgari generals that are going to like this, is there?
No.
Nope.
No. We should ask Kevin Monroe, I think is his name, right? Kevin, who is at Kevin Sanroman, I think, on Twitter. We should ask Kevin if he's running this in his Gitrog deck, because that was a positively brutal Gitrog deck.
I'm going to confidently predict he is. Oh, God, look at it. It's such a good card.
Yeah. So, what's your number one card, Sean?
My number one card, big splashy card that it is. No, I've gone for something that I think is going to become a Commander staple. It is Nephalia Academy. Does land? If a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, you may reveal that card and put it on the top of your library instead of putting it anywhere else. But you can also tap it to add 1 colourless mana to your mana pool. So?
Well, it'll gum up the top of your library at least.
Kinda. So, like last night I was playing with this. I've put it into every deck I own now. Someone memory jarred. I'm like, do you know what? I'm okay with that. All you've done is allow me to order the top 7 cards of my library. It's...
With it.
Wheel of Fortune. So, Wheel of Fortunes. Okay. You choose the best cards out of your hand, put the ones you don't want into your graveyard, and then draw back up to 7 with the best cards out of your hand still in it. It's just fantastic. Library of Leng is a great card, but it probably wasn't worth a slot. Whack it on a land, it's a slot every day of the week.
Yeah.
So technically it doesn't prevent discard triggers, it just redirects where you put your card.
When you apply Nephalia Academy's effect, the card was still discarded. Abilities that trigger when a card is discarded will still trigger.
Excellent.
So, Megrian wins.
Okay, that's fine. But what it does, though, is that card you've tutored for, or that card that you're holding in your hand for that right moment, it's not going anywhere if you don't want it to. You can still get it back next turn.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a free scroll rack against discard decks.
Yeah, or anyone that plays sort of heavy, like a lot of people play wheel effects, don't they? Windfall and Wheel of Fortune type stuff.
Yep.
A lot of people run those sort of effects. I can't see. A better question is, tell me a reason not to put it in my deck. Any deck.
No, there's no reason. This goes right in. I mean,
go ahead.
Only if you're already at saturation with colorless mana sources, right? A lot of utility lands like Arcane Lighthouse and whatnot generate our colorless mana, and so at some point you start pinching your ability to fix your own mana. But
yes,
I think we're far away from that. I think Nephalia Academy goes right in, especially in our meta.
In our meta, that's very good. For me, it's just going to be all these little utility lands. We've had them a few over the sets, haven't we, where it's going to be in there with Reliquary Tower and Arcane Lighthouse and Homeward Path are the 3 that I know.
You bet.
Rogue's Passage.
Rogue's Passage, I think, is more situational.
Well, I like that situation.
It's a situation that's very popular in many, many decks, but I don't think it's in everyone. And I think you don't care about Arcane Lighthouse if you're not doing targeted removal.
True.
Right.
And you don't care about Reliquary Tower if you plan on top decking mono red anyway.
Although with Zada you need cards. Library of Leng is already in Zada.
Well, Zada is one of the few ways in mono red to draw bucket loads of cards at once.
Yeah. Not enough. Never enough.
Yeah, I think mono red and Boros and mono white might be the only colours that don't get tons of cards, because everything else has got access to blue or black and green, kind of.
Felden would probably not play this. He doesn't mind discarding giant creatures.
You get the choice with this, don't you?
Yeah, but...
So there might be times that you want to keep the card that's in your hand.
Yeah, but maybe he's playing a bunch of mountains and a bunch of non-basic land removal.
Hey, What kind of monster would do that?
How about those legendary creatures?
This set did have a bunch of good legendary creatures, didn't it?
It had some impressive looking ones.
At least fun legendary creatures.
Yeah, they look fun.
Yeah, well, what are they, Nate?
All right. This one, it tried to beat me up at the pre-release, but I had enough removal to knock it around. Gisela the Broken Blade, 2 in white. Legendary creature, Angel Horror, 4/3. Flying, first strike, lifelink. Hey, that's pretty good right there if you're playing mono white Voltron.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do that, but anyway, at the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control, is at the end step. If you have this and Bruna the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. We'll get to that later. Bruna the Fading Light is 5 white. That's a bunch. Legendary creature, Angel Horror, 5/7. When you cast Bruna the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. She's got flying and vigilance. Hey, maybe you got a dead Gisela in your graveyard. What happens if you bring her back? Well, they turn into Brizella, Voice of Nightmares. Legendary creature, Eldrazi Angel. No longer a horror, but gains the Eldrazi subtype. 9 power, 10 toughness. Flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less.
It's like a reverse Gaddock Teague.
Yep. And she could go in a Gaddock Teague deck.
She could.
So nasty, that.
And you could put a Void Winnower in, just to lock it down even more.
Chiggles.
So I asked Matt Tabak on Twitter. He's the rules manager at Wizards, and he's part of Sheldon's posse, the rules committee for Commander. Combat damage dealt by Brizella counts for the Commander rule if either half is your Commander. So which one do you play as Commander?
I personally would choose Bruna because she gets the Gisela back. I've seen people playing with the Gisela who have been doing this just to try and do damage really quick. But they're basically just playing Voltron mono white with equipment and luck into the Bruna occasionally. So I think Bruna's the one you go for.
Yeah.
I would go for Human Angel Tribal with Bruna as the commander and then occasionally luck into the Gisela.
Yeah, I think if you were specifically playing this for the very Timmy/Johnny meld effect, then you're running Bruna as the commander so that you can return Gisela. Gisela, of course, you would sacrifice so that if somebody targets it with removal that exiles the card, you just sack her in response. So you're going to have lots of sack outlets. It's a kind of janky deck, and it really is going to be a lot more focused on getting the meld out more than really winning. Right, because you have to add the extra sack support, the tutoring.
Angel Human Tribal is a viable deck, but I think there's better commanders than Bruna Fading Light for it.
Yeah, at 7 cost.
I think Odric could play Gisela without Bruna.
I think Odric could Odric should definitely play Gisela without Bruna, because it runs Baneslayer Angel, the Odric deck, and Gisela's just that.
Yeah.
I think Odric could get away with Bruna.
Well, I think you're running both of these cards in Odric.
7 mana.
Just to see if you can get it to happen?
Just to see if you can get it to happen.
Same reason you try to make the handwear Writhing Township.
Yeah. Yeah. You find a place for a 7 converted mana cost angel.
Now note that you do have to get both cards out, and tutoring the other half is going to be tough in mono white, and luckily we now have Thalia's Lancers, which is 3 white creature, human knight, 4/4 first strike. And when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So it's like a little Captain Sisay.
I think it's interesting that the Lancers didn't make any of our top 5. I think that's one where we just sort of assume it's going in if you're going to play with a critical mass or a couple of key critical legendary creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that, it's like, okay, it's a white legendary tutor. Sisay enjoys the redundancy. What do we have? The Thalia Heretic Cathar as our next legendary?
Heretic.
Yeah.
I don't know what heretic is.
Speaking of white legendary creatures you probably wouldn't use as your commander, Thalia, Heretic Cathar, is 2 and a white. Legendary creature, human soldier, 3/2. First strike. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. That's pretty good. We can tell by the art that Thalia's sword training uses a fencing style with thrusting or impaling attacks rather than wide cutting or slashing swipes. One cannot use a hack-and-slash sword style and have long, gorgeous, flowing, unbound tresses of hair at the same time. If Thalia tried a Kylo Ren greatsword style, she would give herself an unintentional mohawk.
But Kylo Ren has gorgeous flowing locks. Feathery. Even when he's been wearing a helmet all day, that hair is perfect.
Yeah, but it's not that long. It's like you put on his helmet and then you just cut around the bottom, and that's his haircut. It's probably built into the helmet.
That scene where he takes the helmet off in that film I found really jarring because it cuts away, he puts the helmet down on the little bucket of sand, cuts back to him, and his hair is just glorious, like a Vidal Sassoon advert. And that really, even the first time I saw it in the cinema, I was just like, what? Okay, move along, because they're not going to answer that. Speaking of good cards that go into Odric decks, Thalia, Heretic Cathar, fantastic.
Yeah.
Pace out your opponents, gives everything first strike for 3 mana on a 3/2 creature. Brilliant.
Yeah, for comparison, I don't often see Urabrask the Hidden as commander, but I do see him in the 99.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Urabrask the Haste is brilliant, but let's be honest, the bit that really everyone off is the all your creatures come in tapped bit. And it's like a Blood Moon for a Blood Moon on Blind Obedience, is it? Which one was it? Kismet, or was it both that bring in lands tapped?
Kismet,
yeah. So I like Thalia.
Blind Obedience is creatures and artifacts.
Yes, correct. And Extort on it as well, isn't it? It's a great card, that. I think Thalia is a good card, but not as a commander. As a commander, she just says, hey everyone, screw you. And everyone gets pissed off.
Yeah, she gets expensive really fast.
Yeah, she does. And you hear Josh Lee Kwai go, no, I only play with non-basic lands. He was complaining about this on the command zone. Rightfully so, as well.
Sorry, Kozilek.
In our format, it's pretty nasty.
Tempo. Hey, if only there was a giant squid beast to bring about a sort of completion.
Emrakul,
the Promised End. 13 mana for a legendary creature Eldrazi, 13/13. Emrakul, the Promised End, costs 1 less to cast for each card type amongst cards in your graveyard. That's a maximum of 8, kids. When you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn. Flying, trample, protection from instants. An enigma. As vexing as life itself. Interesting that it says you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. So you can say to them, right, you go, get me a beer, do a dance. This card says you can do that.
Judge?
Judge says, technically he's right. It says here he controls you. So you say forfeit the round? Okay. You say even if you top 8, you give this guy all your prizes and cash? Okay, cool.
You're not a judge.
Jimmy, he's onto us. Cheese it. Emrakul. Okay, so I've played with Emrakul as the person that plays Eldrazi in the true and proper way, i.e. proper colourless. Nate. And Bradford, if you're listening, with your Krufix. And people with Eldrazi Animar decks. Emrakul, I tried it as the commander.
And Lord of Riots.
Yeah, well, that's why I just said Nate, because everyone knew what that meant. Nate's Lord of Riots. Emrakul is alright as the commander, so I retooled my Kozilek Great Distortion deck with the idea of casting Emrakul as fast as I could. 2 things happened. 1, okay, I could cast her quite fast, but if you cast her really early in the game, you can't do much with that Mindslaver effect. You just can't. 2, Emrakul sets you a command zone, and everyone says, I don't want to be mind-slavered, kick the crap out of that guy.
Yep.
So, what I did was I switched Emrakul, without changing the deck at all, I switched Emrakul out with Kozilek Great Distortion again, and found, because that deck was now super fast, I could play out my hand and refill it and keep doing that. And in one game, I managed to hardcast all 3 Eldrazi Titans in the same turn. And then annoyingly sat there just saying to my opponents, and then there were 3, as I tapped them all and turned them sideways at one player over and over again. That was good fun. Interesting note, and this was pointed out to me by Charles Moreau, listener Charles Moreau. If you want a complete flavour fail, but lols at the same time, if you play Ugin's Nexus, your opponents don't get the extra turn after you've hit them with Emrakul.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, Stranglehold too.
Yeah, you can't cast Stranglehold in your own deck, though. Unless you're doing Rakdos Lord of Riots, Nate.
Right.
Or Animar. But yeah, if you're doing Emrakul as your commander, dump a bit of Ugin's Nexus into your deck, and it's brilliant. Yeah, she's great, Emrakul. I have nothing more to say about her.
All right.
Anyone else?
Yeah, she's good. So what's our next legendary?
The next one, Ulrico the Krylon Horde, 3 red, green, legendary creature, human werewolf.
Wait, stop. Nate, we're only talking about legendary creatures.
Oh, right. Yeah, we've already complained about this guy. Should we move on?
Twice. We complained about it in Encyclopedia, and then we complained about it to the person that designed the card.
Yeah.
And they went,
all right.
Yeah, you kind of got a point.
So, Sean, who's next?
Gisengerolf. I've spoke about this in a previous episode at some considerable length, so I'm just going to say it's Carador for Dimir players, and people are being a little bit sniffy about it. I genuinely believe this will stand the test of time as a good commander for its zombie tribe.
Yes.
And its colours. And I think only time's going to prove.
People are being snippy about this card?
Yeah, the phrase, this sentence gets mentioned every time you mention her. Grimgrin's better. Hi, Grimgrin. How's it going?
Grimgrin face. Lemon face. Grimgrin face. Lemon face.
People will say that Grimgrin is better. Grimgrin is also zombie tribal.
Yeah, he is.
But I think is a different strategy of zombie tribal.
Yeah, it is.
I think he plays much more into the Voltron-y style commander damage approach.
Yeah, he does.
Whereas G&G, as the cool kids call them, are going to play much more into the recursion strategy. And Carador is disgustingly powerful, so why is Carador in blue and black not disgustingly powerful? Meh? That's it. This one will stand the test of time. I just wait to be proven right about this one. This next one, I'm less convinced by.
Yeah.
Take it away, whoever's talking about this.
You want it, Phil?
Sure.
Or not?
No, it's all right. It's Ishkana Graf Widow. Or should I say, Ishkana Graf Widow.
Okay.
For 4 and a green, you get a legendary creature spider 3/5 with reach and delirium. When Ishkana Graf Widow enters the battlefield, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, put 3 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield. And it has an activated ability for 6 and a black. I almost said green, but for 6 and a black, which makes this a Golgari commander, gentlemen.
Yay.
Target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. That's right. For the low cost of 7 mana, you can inflict 4 points of damage to every player at the table.
Just to one player.
Just to one player for the low cost of 7 mana. That is, Nate.
Yep.
1 player, 4 points. Yeah. Hey, Spider Tribal now has a commander.
Yay.
Yeah. So spiders, as a tribe, they have high toughness, they have low power, and they have reach. So if your opponent isn't cooperating by playing a bunch of flyers, then you are overpaying mana for your tribe. Now, if Ishkana's activated ability said each opponent, then I would consider brewing this deck. But it doesn't, so I'm not.
Nope.
So Andy over at Commander's Brew brewed this deck on a recent episode, the Eldritch Moon episode. So if you want to hear a budget brew for it, which I think it's an okay budget brew, because a lot of the spiders aren't very good, so they're playing in a slightly powered down meta and budget commander.
Yeah. You gotta really like spiders.
You gotta really like spiders.
I'm really not convinced. I think the card that they tried to design, that Sam Stoddard spoke about, that cast it spider spawning when you cast it, was a good card. You know, you play this guy and get a bunch of spiders all at the same time.
Yeah.
But the card that they finished with is just, I think it's worse than not very good. I think it's bad. I think 7 mana for that ability is poor.
Now, I drew this in limited in the pre-release, and in the pre-release, this is a fantastic card.
Yeah, huh?
Right. I actually had Bruna as well, but so I played a green and white deck with Ishkana and Bruna. But Ishkana, when she came out,
did you splash a couple of swamps in?
Yeah, well,
But of course.
I did. I splashed a couple of swamps in, and it was pretty effective. But again, you know, in limited, you're talking about a 3/5 with 3 1/2 buddies, right? And so that's pretty darn good in limited. But in commander, you get some chumps, and you recur it.
Here's a flavor question. Why do spiders have high toughness in the multiverse? It's not like you see a spider in your front room that you need to kill and you go, I better get the bigger shoe because they're particularly tough.
Well, it may reflect the reticence you have at approaching a spider, right? If you want to get within 3 feet of a spider. And also, they have big butts. What if she gave... What if Ishkana gave Death Touch to all your spiders?
That would be excellent. It needs a...
Same card plus Death Touch.
As well as?
Yeah.
That would be fantastic because they've all got reach.
Yeah.
Reach of death.
Da, da, da. I don't know if it would be good as a commander then. I think producing essentially what would be a slightly worse Hornet Queen, but for cheaper mana, is what you're describing there, Phil.
Yep, that's true. But Hornet Queen can't be the boss.
Hornet
She's
Queen
just
can't
the queen.
tap 7 to deal someone 4 points of damage. That's such a bad ability. I know it's cute.
Well, you know.
I know it's cute for it to cost the same amount of mana as Spider Spawning. It's flashback. Sorry, Spider Spawning's flashback is 6 and a black to recast it with flashback from the graveyard. I know it's cute, but it's not good.
Nope.
Puppies are cute. You wouldn't bring them to a fight, would you? Anyway.
Yeah. Nate, you said the secret ingredients in your hamburgers was bacon and puppies, didn't you?
No. I didn't say that.
What can survive the impact against a wall harder? Bricks or ducklings? There's only one way to find out on Commander in Mythbusters. Then we'll get sued by Mythbusters as well. Hey, there's a planeswalker in this set that would probably enjoy all these blood sports, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is.
Liliana, the last hope.
Ooh.
1 black.
She's probably dashed a few ducklings against a brick wall, hasn't she?
3 to loyalty. And for +1, you get to kill up to 1 weenie.
1 duckling.
And for -2, you mill 2 cards and you disentomb. So you put a creature card from your graveyard. Hey, it's in your graveyard? Well, now it's in your hand. -7, you get an emblem. Free zombies on your end step. How many zombies do you get? Well, how many do you have? Add 2. That's how many zombies you get.
Sounds like the sort of question you should ask someone in Sesame Street. Hey, Elmer, how many zombies do I get?
You realize that +1 is her throwing a duck against a brick wall.
The art on the card, she's just like bullseyed a tiny little Donald, like Huey, Dewey and Louie against the wall at high speed, and now she's going,
Yeah, she's got one in each hand, and she flings them against the walls that are just off scene.
No, ducklings. That cape she's got on, the trim on it isn't mink, it's duckling down.
Oh, God, we've gone somewhere bad.
Yeah, it's early in the morning for me. So the +1 is okay. +1 to kill someone's weenie creature. And remember, it's until your next turn. So it's going to minus something. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
The -2, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's not great. Like, I guess only because it's a good effect to put a creature card from your graveyard into your hand, and the -2 is good in the right black decks. But there are cards that do it more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
The -7, it's okay. There's a long way to get there because she only comes in at loyalty 3.
Yep. Would you put this in Gisa and Geralf?
Yeah, I think I would because of the -2. And
the free zombies.
She's only 3 mana to cast, though, which is what I'm going to say to all of this. And in all Planeswalkers, as soon as you get below 4 CMC, you have to consider it because a 3-drop is good.
Yeah.
Just because it's going to soak up some life and keep repeating. You can get it early game, and if you get it early game, you've got a shot at getting that ultimate going.
And she's likely to basically nerf any of the creatures that are out at that early in the game. And that +1 really is for limited because of all the menacing and skulking creatures. They all have low power. Many of them have low power.
Yeah, it's a great limited card. I think as a commander card, though, if you pull one, because this is going to be an expensive card for a while, I think. 3 CMC Planeswalkers are always expensive because they're generally played in Standard, and some get into Modern. I think if you pull one, great. I wouldn't go spending £25 or dollars or whatever it is at the moment on them.
Yeah.
If you really love Liliana, you might want to. Don't know. It's just very situational, isn't it?
Oh my word.
What's the oh my word?
What?
She's $40 right now.
Oh,
Sell her.
Wow. Okay, that means she was played in the pro. At the time of recording, we've just had the decks from the first GP Eldritch Moon, or was it Pro Tour Eldritch Moon hit? So I'm guessing someone played with her there. Right, everyone, and after talking about Liliana, not only is it the last hope, but it's the last time you're going to hear me on this episode until maybe right at the end, because I have to go and look after the child of Alara.
We'll say hi to the child.
Peace and love, guys. I will see you all soon.
We'll see you later, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nate, we asked our $10 and above patrons for contributions this show. We asked them for the top 5 cards they picked from the set. Do you want to read through these?
Patron Hunter Pruitt. Number 5, Emrakul the Promised End. Number 4, Soul Separator. We didn't talk about this one. It's an artifact that takes your creature and makes it into 2 creatures. Number 3, Eldritch Evolution. Number 2, Emrakul's Evangel.
Oh, that one's a tricky one. That was a good one.
I remember that one. What's that do?
You sacrifice non-Eldrazi and the Evangel itself, and you get a 3/2 Eldrazi horror for each creature you sacrifice. And
All
when
right.
I say a non-Eldrazi, I mean any number of non-Eldrazi.
That's for 2 and a green. And his number 1 is Nephalia Academy. Next, Patron, Bjarnedict Kristerbatch at Big B Gaming SWE. Place 5, Ishkana Graph Widow. Place 4, Thalia's Lancers. Place 3, Gisela, Bruna, and Brizella. Place 2, Emrakul, the Promised End. Place 1, Sigarda's Aid. We talked about that
that's a good
with
one.
Sam.
Yeah.
That's that enchantment for 1 white that lets you do stuff with enchantments and artifacts.
You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash, and whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control.
Doink.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Honorable mentions, Harmless Offering, the kitty with a snake tail, Tameo,
Yeah.
Mind's Dilation, and Imprisoned in the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Patron Bradford Heron. Number 5, Sigarda's Aid. Voltron decks be praised from the touch of Angel. Drop Batterskull, boom, on Rafik for free. This enchantment makes it so you can even surprise opponents by flashing in powerful auras or equipment. Talk about combat tricks. I don't want to talk about combat tricks. I want to talk about number 4, Elder Deep Fiend. Hate your opponent's largest threats? For the discounted price of 5 blue and a creature, well, minus a creature, you can have them tapped down to attack in or avoid death for another wheel. Number 3.
Is that Elder Deep Fried Squid?
Elder Deep Find. Friend. Deep Friend. Elder Deep Friend. Hello, friend. I'm an elder from the deep. Number 3, Nephalia Academy. Is Nate discarding your cards? He actually wrote this. Now we have a card for you. Stop that card from going to the graveyard and put it back on top. Prevention of discarding your answers is a great land effect.
Yeah, it's on a land.
And it taps for glass mana. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, Imprisoned in the Moon. An out-of-color wheel, or is it? Removal spell? Turns your opponent's commander into a glass tapper. Deal. Number 1, Emrakul, the Promised End. Okay, so a Mindslaver on a stick, a flavorful Madness card, and the giant 13/13 Squid Lady. It may not be the card that goes into every deck, although it could. I don't know about that. This is probably my favorite card in the set. Finally, a commander, fair and powerful, Emrakul that we can all play. Plus that cost reduction, easily can have her out by turn 6 or 7, unless I blow up your mana rocks.
Geez, Nate, looks like you're having an effect on our online test group meta.
Excellent.
Everybody seems to associate Nephalia Academy with anti-Nate.
All right.
Just means more land destruction, doesn't it?
Maybe. I think I have enough. Patron Robin Cass. Although it's not the question we asked, if you were curious about Robin's top 5 Eternal Masters cards, they are number 5, Mana Crypt, number 4, Maze of Ith, number 3, Sylvan Library, number 2, Baleful Strix, and number 1, Toxic Deluge. I like all those except for Sylvan Library.
You don't like Sylvan Library?
Nah. Don't like it.
Huh.
And I probably won't play a Mana Crypt either.
Yeah, unless you pull one.
Because they're expensive.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's almost the end of the show, isn't it, Nate? We know what that means.
Yep.
What horrors do you have for us this week?
I got a message. This week I'm going to talk about Tree of Perdition. It's 3 and a black creature plant, 0/13 defender. And if you tap it, you exchange target opponent's life total with Tree of Perdition's toughness. So it's kind of like the green Tree of Redemption in the original Innistrad. For 3 and a green, you exchange your life total with Tree of Redemption's toughness. And there were some ways to weaponize that before Tree of Perdition existed. But now it's already weaponized and you don't need extra jank. You might need a little bit. But anyway, expect to see it in Duran the Siege Tower and Sapling of Kolfinor decks that also use Triskaidekaphobia. As a public service announcement, I've heard some people talking about how you can set a player's life total to 13 and then do it again to someone else next turn, but that doesn't quite work. Since the tree exchanges toughness with life total, well, using it on one player will set the tree's toughness to 40 or whatever the player's life total was. So on your next turn, if you're trying to use the same tree on someone else, you will set their life total to 40 or whatever the first player's life was. So you might want to add something else that can adjust your own creature toughness, like a mirror entity, or maybe a godhead of awe, and then set your creatures to 1/1 and then tap the tree. Also consider self-bounce or blink effects as another way to reset the tree's toughness to 13.
That's just mean.
Yep. That's why it's a message of the week.
Yep. Well, there it is. It is a beautiful card, Tree of Perdition.
Yep. You like using Sorin Markov?
Did you pull one by any chance?
I did not. I pulled a Odric and Athalia's Lancers, though, but I didn't have a good enough white pool to use it, really. And I didn't have any other legendary creatures to grab with Athalia's Lancers.
Oh, yeah, but still. you take it home and it works just as well. Better. Nate, time for us to thank our listeners for tuning in for so long. And, of course, we love our listeners. We play with them all the time. They playtest decks with us. There's always some shenanigans up when we're with our listeners. If you have not, and even if you have had the opportunity to playtest decks with us, go give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'll wait. It's only if you really like the show. And if you really, really like the show, then come join our community on Patreon, where you too can contribute, just like the ones we heard from today. Hunter and Bjarne and Bradford and, of course, Robin. Come on over and we'll hang out. We'll chat with you. It'll be a lot of fun. Our theme song, Nate, you created the theme song for the podcast. How cool is that?
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Mr. Picto, with assistance from my wife, Kelly, created the logo for the podcast, and of course Kelly created the mana symbols so that we could put them on all sorts of fun things, but more on that later once we get some fun things to put them on. Special thanks to our tech whizzes Jessie, Thomson, and Graham Frank, and to Justin for his server space. You can reach us by going to our website, commanderin.mtg.com. Our email is cast@commanderin.mtg.com. You can find us on all the social medias by searching for Commander and MTG Podcast. We don't name them anymore, do we, Nate?
Nope.
Except individually.
Except this
on
one.
Twitter. I'm at Ketjack. Sean is at Copain26.
I'm at Copain26. And I'm at Mr. Plorg. Ulrich of the Krallen Horde, Uncontested Alpha, take us out.
And that is our show.
Commanderin. All right. This reminds me that we didn't get the Swedish version of Lion Face Lemon Face. So was he doing like a robotic Lion Face Lemon Face?
No, he was just listening to me do it. He wouldn't even join in. It was too silly. And he said, "You English people are silly."
Yeah, I heard him laughing about that, but darn, it would have been great to have that. Anyway, so do you want to do a Lion Face Lemon Face for record, or do you feel that's over the top right now?
Lion face!
Lion face. Lemon face. Lion face. Lemon face. Lion face. Lemon face. Lion face.
Lion face.
Lion
Actually,
face.
I'll try to do Robin's.
Lemon face.
Lion face. Lemon face. Lion face. Lemon face.
Yeah. Did it feel bad doing, listening to that again and realizing that the Pan-European Alliance had been sundered by Boris Johnson?
It hurt a bit. And as one of our Twitter followers pointed out, America is about to fail its IQ test, but by the time they listened to that, England already had failed their IQ test. So, yeah. Well, good point. Well made.
So
surprising.
we shouldn't cheat off your test paper, huh?
No.
We're only at risk of getting a far right-wing government led by a buffoon, whereas you get all that and an exit from the European Union. That's a very special time.
Oh, no, Theresa May is not a buffoon. Our new Prime Minister is anything. She's dangerous. She's too smart to be that dangerous because she, doesn't want self-destruction, unlike somebody's reality TV show excuse for a future president.
So is she going to attack Scotland after its next independence vote?
Oh, I hope so.
What, just invade? I think we should take some of the Trump ideas and build a wall. Rebuild Hadrian's Wall.
Hadrian's Wall, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That made me chuckle. But, actually, I like Scotland. It's actually a nice country. Which is why I guess we've controlled it for hundreds of years. So, yeah. Anyway. Sorry, Scotland. I'm only joking. I'm only joking.